Elle partagea la vie de Picasso pendant 9 ans. Dora Maar était d'une grande beauté. Elle lui inspira de nombreux portraits.
99X. It is the Morning X. Barnes and Leslie. Fram, you ready to get your history on?
Yeah, I want to hear all about Picasso's house, but...
It's not Picasso's house. It's his muse/side project.
Picasso to his mistress and his muse, Dora Maar.
Dora Maar war lange Zeit, fast 10 Jahre, die Muse und Geliebte von Pablo Picasso.
Unfortunately, her artistic career has since been overshadowed by her role as muse and mistress to the Spanish artist Pablo Picasso.
Dora Maar was a significant figure who established herself as a prominent photographer associated with the Surrealist movement. She was not just a photographer, but an incredible multidisciplinary artist, varying from photography, photomontage, and painting. Working both on commissions and on a commercial basis, Dora Maar was one of the first women photographers to co-run a studio in Paris. The camera became her tool for honing technical and creative skills, enabling expression through diverse photographic approaches, such as fashion, figure studies, nude photography, darkroom collages, and street photography. As a surrealist, Dora Maar was not solely confined in the art world, but was also an active participant in politics during that era. She used photography as a political tool to document society. Traveling the outskirts of Paris, Barcelona, and London, she captured laborers, unemployed, blind street peddlers, and children. These images are now considered some of the earliest examples of street photography.
Come, let's go into the studio. I'll show you some new pictures. But please don't ask me to explain them. I just don't think it's possible. I paint. I can only describe this as a drive.
Seeing means usually you open your eyes and you look to the outside world. You close your eyes and you look into your inner world. And I believe the best to do is to have one eye closed and to look inside, and this is the inner eye. With the other eye, you have it fixed on reality, what is going on around in the world. If you can make a kind of a synthesis of these two important words, you come to a result which can be considered as the synthesis of objective and subjective life.
This synthesis was at the heart of the Surrealist project. the twin commitments of which were to social and political or outer revolution, and to psychic or inner transformation.
It was very much a group to which you had to be admitted. It wasn't something you would just choose to join if you felt like it. It was a kind of collective, but it was a collective with a rather exclusive membership.
The Surrealist movement, like many other 20th century avant-garde movement, was a man's club. While influential women like Dora Maar and numerous other female artists made significant contributions to the Surrealist movement, none were officially recognized as members or signatories of its manifestos. Despite this, the female body played a central role in the Surrealist art, often portrayed as a projection of the male artist's fantasies and the idea of femininity. Unfortunately, women artists were rarely acknowledged as equals and were frequently relegated to the roles of subjects and muse by their peers. This pattern persists in art history to this day.
Women artists have never gotten the serious attention and certainly not the serious money that male artists do. Why?
Frida Kahlo. That's one. Yeah?
Frida. Ooh.
Can anyone name 3 women artists?
I learned to, look into a lot of facets of the real world and what it meant to be a woman artist in the society and in the art world. And as it was pretty tough.
Women aspiring to success in a male-dominated art world, as we know, must work much harder at it and will be defined as second-rate for the most part.
It was sort of a built-in attitude within the institutions that it was acceptable, normal, and preferable to have all-white male shows.
This is because art history itself, namely the discipline and its way of thinking and representing the art of the past, had developed in the 19th century and became consolidated as an academic subject and a museum practice that was structurally sexist.
The History of Art by H.W. Jansen.
The most basic art history book only rarely alludes to women artists. Even most historians dealing with specific period of arts often do not seriously consider their work. This vision throughout decades distorted our views of the world, of history and of ourselves. It created a bond between masculinity and creativity that is denied to art and femininity. Instead, women are seen as mere objects, such as muses. From the Renaissance to the mid-19th century, the most influential art was history painting, which is the painting of historical, mythological, and religious figures based on human figure. The study of the naked human body was essential. It was a proof of greatness, but it was denied to women. They were not just affected by the exclusion from the nude, but also they had no power to determine the language of high art.
It's often said that if you can draw the human figure, you can draw anything. And the human figure is key to being able to draw anything.
The nude, once male, transformed into female figure, yet women remain notably absent from art schools, existing primarily as subjects in painting, as an image with specific connotation of body, nature and meaning, reflecting the relation of power between man and woman. Women were depicted as passive, available, possessible and powerless, appearing as a nymph asleep in woodland glades, as a shipwreck and unconscious queen rescued in scanty clothing from the water, as a Venus raised upon waves, or as a model in the artist studio. The female figure are often asleep, unconscious, unconcerned, allowing undisturbed and voyeuristic enjoyment of the female form, an object to the male viewer outside the painting, a meaning sometimes reinforced by the gaze of a subordinate male onlooker in the painting itself.
As we are here most of the time, it gives you a chance to experiment with new forms of entertainment.
Introduce you to our model.
Wait a minute, Connie. Wait a minute. Just slow down, all right?
Okay.
Tonight we're going to do a what?
A nude.
We're going to do a nude, an actual human life study.
In the flesh.
All right. Do you have a model for us?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Connie, go ahead.
May we meet Laura?
We meet Laura. Of course. Here's Laura.
Okay. Now what we're going to do is sketch her. So, assume a pose.
Oh.
Here. Take this, and what we're going to do is learn a few things about how to see artistically. Now you've got to look at it.
Most of the women who are doing all the bitching are completely talentless. For example, like the top women artists, you don't hear them making these embarrassing feminist pleas. They don't have any talent, and they're taking it out on men.
The women's movement in the arts had started, as far as I know, in 1969. And it was with a group called WAR, Women Artists in Revolution.
There were almost no women artists who are visible at all.
It was like an underground railroad. And the women in America were just waiting to be released.
Books that you read in those days were written in a way that denigrated women artists if they even mentioned them.
We would do this together in a sense, to gain entry, to gain a voice. And then in this way that we would bolster and give word, give out the word that there were all these women artists, just as men have always done it immemorially, and quite naturally, I think.
In April 1971, the police closed down Margaret Harrison exhibition on the ground of indecency. It was London's first overtly one-woman feminist art show, and it lasted just one day.
I never really got to the bottom of it, but it was thought of being too pornographic. Now, they didn't mind the women in the sandwiches. What they did mind was why I altered the male body. When the gallery director said, well, what don't you like about it, this policeman? He said, well, it was the way she treated the men.
The conscience of the art world, and we feel that there is underrepresentation of women and minorities. And when you see our logo, basically, when you see our face, that's what we stand for, and it's not personal.
We discovered that fewer than 5% of the artists in the museum were women, but 85% of the nudes in the modern section were female.
Against external perturbations, the party of education. The truth of history's confirmation of social.
Well, we knew that wasn't true. We knew that history is a richer story than that, and that you cannot tell the story of our culture without the voices of everyone in the culture. Otherwise, it's not history, it's just the history of the powerful.
It's about who guards these museums, who guards these history books, who's been able to write them in the past. The fact that we now see women at the helm of the Tate, the Louvre, the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. That's why it's changing so much, because we have these people in powerful positions whose aim is to spread and highlight representation.
All around the world, more and more women artists are being collected.
The more contemporary art, there is definitely a move to collecting more female artists.
A growing female population of staff who are talking about it a lot.
But there is still a long way to go. Even though we can to some extent to rewrite the history of art, to showcase the contribution of women artists, the inherent gender imbalance embedded in historical narratives remain a challenging obstacle to overcome. But the decision we make now, what we collect, and which artists we decide to give space and opportunities to, will change the landscape for future generations. It is crucial that these attitudes are not only focused on new spaces and new exhibitions, but also applied to existing rooms. Reconfiguring the space, which form and teach the canon of art history,